b term, which in this case is 4. What two factors?
Negative 6 and 2. Negative 2.
Okay, so say it again.
Negative 2.
Oh, yeah, what she said.
Negative 2.
Okay, so I've heard 2, negative 2 and 6. I also heard a negative 6 and 2. Can someone either add on or push back to that?
She didn't do that.
Yeah, I ain't
Because you get a negative 4.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, you need a positive.
Okay, right, so what Cole was saying, Clay, I don't know why you call me Clay. Clay was saying, you're old. Okay, what Clay was saying is if you make 6 negative and the 2 positive, that's going to give you a negative 4 for your b term, which is not what we have. We have positive 4. So it has to be positive 6 and negative 2. Okay, so writing the same equation, we're going to come right here. 2x squared minus 2x plus 6x minus 6 equals 0. Now what's our next step? Do what? Yeah, grouping. So we're going to factor by grouping. So here's our first group and our second group. What do we notice in this first group? What can we factor out? What do they both have in common? A 2 and an x. Very good. And what does that leave us in parentheses? Factor out a 2x from a 2x squared. And what about minus 1? Does everyone see how we got that? We had some struggles in our period.
How you get that?
Okay, so think about factoring out as dividing. So if we divide 2x squared divided by 2x, what does that leave us with? We have not just a 1. X, so the 2's. 2 divided by 2. Anything divided by itself is 1, so that would cancel. We have 2, like an x times x in the top and an x in the bottom. So an x times an x divided by an x. X divided by x is x. I mean, it's 1, sorry. It leaves us with x. That's how we got this x right here. And then 2x divided by 2x, it's just 1. Anything divided by itself is just 1. That's how we get there. And then what about this? What are we going to factor out? A 6. And it leaves us with 8 minus 1. Very good. Okay. And then to go from here, what are we going to do?
Pull them out.
Who said it? I heard it over here. Factor out the x minus 1. And what's our second term? This was 2x plus 6 equals 0. Okay, this is an equivalent form of this expression right here. I'm going to go ahead and solve it so you guys can see how we solve it. So, using what property, we talked about it before in this class, to solve it, I heard it, zero product property, which means, why? Why does one of them have to be 0? Yeah. Anything multiplied by 0 is going to be 0, right? So, either this factor or this factor has to be 0 for this to equal 0. 4 times 0 is 0. So, x minus 1 is equal to 0, or 2x plus 6 is equal to 0. And then we solve using inverse operations. Solve this kind of quickly. Do we see how we got that? We can solve from there. Yes? No? Heads nodding. Did we follow that? Okay. So that's factoring. We're kind of used to this method. Next method. Which one do you want to do next? Quadratic formula or vertex? Vertex? Sandy, do you have a question? No, I'm just looking. Okay. So for vertex, what's the first thing that we should find? Our x value. And how do we find our x value in vertex? Okay. And I'm going to be so transparent. I'm trying to work on my over versus divided by with you guys. So if I say over, just know I mean divided by. I'm trying to work on it too. So x is equal to negative b divided by 2a. And so in this case, using this equation right here, what's our x value going to be? Negative 4. This is our b. Divided by 2 times a. That's all I did right here.
We do that factor form.
Whoa. Why you making two
I did right here, negative 4.
Oh, this equals one.
I would say,
Oh, sorry.
the equal sign looks like it's on the.
Sorry.
I can't see it.
I thought the same thing, to be honest. I was like, what? Got it.
Equals
Yeah.
negative 4, okay? And this simplifies to negative 1. So our x value is negative 1. Now how are we going to find our y value in our vertex? Substitute it back into this equation. So finding our y, we're going to say 2 times negative 1 squared plus 4 times 1, negative 1, minus 6. Solving negative 1 squared.
1.
1, okay, so 2 times 1 plus, what is negative 1 times 4?
Negative 4.
Minus 4 minus 6. And if you want to put that in the calculator, please use your calculator today. It's not like how much arithmetic you know, it's just,
Negative
I mean,
12.
you can plug it in a calculator. So, what does this equal? 2?
Two.
Negative 12.
Yeah, negative 8. This is negative 10. Negative 4 minus 6, negative 10 plus 2 is negative 8. So our vertex is negative 1, negative 8. Now, vertex form, and I should have put this up earlier. What is our vertex form? What's our equation for it?
Equals
Plus k, right? Do you agree with that? We have our h and k. We just found it. What's that one thing that we're missing from vertex form that'll help us?
A.
So
Our a value, right here. What is our a value?
2.
How'd you get to?
standard form.
From standard form, right here. So this is also, if you think about this, I'm not getting it right, but this is ax squared plus bx plus c, where 2 is representative of our a. So we can just take this a and use it in this equation too. So a is equal to 2. Okay, now we're going to solve by plugging these values, substituting these values in this equation. We're going to have 0 is equal to, a is 2, x plus 1, substituting this negative 1 in for this h, squared minus 8. Does everyone see where I got that from? Yes? You can say no.
Yes.
You have a question, Logan? Right here. Because this is ax squared. Any other questions? No? Okay, then we're just going to solve this exactly how it's been taught. We're going to use our inverse operations, our inverse properties to both sides. Okay, then I'm going to stop here. What is our next step? Divide by 2. Yes, very good. Be careful. We cannot square yet. We have to do PEMDAS, order of operations. So we must divide by 2 first. On both sides. So it's going to be 4 is equal to x plus 1. Okay, then what?
Square.
Square root. Okay. And then it's going to cancel. It's going to be 1. What is the square root of 4?
2.
What?
2.
Does anyone want to push back or out onto that? Of 4?
Can't
2.
do that.
Can I 2?
It's 2. Are we confident?
2.2.
I want you to think further about square roots. It is 2.
One.
I'm not disagreeing with 2.
Oh,
2 and negative 2.
Oh.
Because remember, when we take the square root, you have the positive and the negative version of square roots. So it's not just 2, it's 2 and negative 2.
Can you write in a darker marker?
Do what?
Can you write in a darker marker?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, we're just adding on.
She said that.
I think Deja has a good question. If I understand what she's asking, let's talk about what Deja's question.
What was your question?
Are we like still, are we solving?
Okay, yeah, so I should have pointed this out earlier. This is our equivalent form right here. And now we're solving. Just like this is our equivalent form right here.
Oh.
And now we're solving. That clarify it? Okay. Okay, so then this breaks up. When square roots come into, we have 2 zeros. we have a positive 2 and a negative 2 to account for whenever we're solving. I'm gonna move this right here, okay? So we have 2 is equal to x plus 1, and negative 2 is equal to x plus 1. Those are our two equations, and we need to solve for x for both of them. Subtract our 1. How does that feel? Are we more comfortable with that form?
I like the factor better.
Yeah? No? Okay. Our last form, which is what? Yeah.
Could x also be like x equals 1 minus?
Hey, you guys, listen to our question.
And x minus 1 plus 2? Or do we have to keep it as x equals 1 or x equals 3?
Right here.
Yeah, like I did x equals 1 plus 2 and x equals 1 minus 2. I haven't done that.
I would just simplify further. However, I do want to caution you, it's not 1 plus 2. Since you are subtracting over, it's a negative 1 plus 2 and a negative 1 minus 2. But I would further simplify that. Yeah. Good question. Okay, our last form, personally my favorite form.
Not to be biased. We all have our favorites.
Formula.
I'm not telling you nothing.
Okay, who remembers the quadratic formula? Not even looking, no looking.
Okay, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared plus 4a times c.
Divided by.
Divided by 2a.
Okay, that was so close.
4 times.
What am I missing?
So, I'm gonna sing a little jingle. It's gonna be a repeat after me, okay? This is what I learned. This is what I learned when learning the quadratic formula. So I'm gonna sing part of it, and then you guys are gonna like kind of repeat after me. You ready? Okay. Negative b. Guys, come on, let's try it.
I'm like it.
Negative b. Negative b. Plus or minus the square root.
Plus or minus the square root.
B squared minus 4ac.
B squared minus 4ac.
Over 2a.
Over 2.
Okay, and I know it says over and not divided by, but for the purposes of
Sing it again so I can listen to it.
We're gonna sing it again. Ready? And I want you to sing both parts, my part and your part. Here we go. Negative b, negative b, plus or minus the square root, plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, b squared minus 4ac, over 2a, over 2a. That's literally, I sing that every time I'm doing the quadratic formula, I'm not kidding. Okay.
Four-letter word.
What's for mine? Alright guys, so I wrote down the formula up here. You guys will listen up for me. What is b in our equation? 4. So negative b will be negative 4 plus or minus. We have 4 squared minus 4. What's our a?
2,
And our c?
negative 6.
Divided by. Very good. Now, some of you guys might can do this in your head super quickly, but you also all have access to a calculator. So I'd highly encourage you to just put it in your calculator. I do want to note, this is something that happened in first walk that I want you guys to hear. When doing this, I think the calculator will know order of operations, but what do you guys have to do first when you're solving this?
Parentheses.
Ready? So can you say 4 squared minus 4? It won't work. It won't work. You have to multiply all these numbers first before you can subtract. Yeah? So just make sure you keep that in mind. What's our under our radical? I need 64. Did anyone get 64? Okay. And you notice that quadratic equation produces plus and minus, kind of similar to our vertex form whenever you take the square root, plus and minus. So we're going to have two different x terms. So we're going to have -4 plus 64 divided by 4 and -4. Sorry, I didn't take the square root. What's square root of 68? I mean 64 plus 8 -4 minus 8 divided by 4. So in this case, what does x equal to? 1 -4 plus 8, 4 divided by 4. Okay. Going to emphasize this because I didn't do this very well in the first block. Do we notice any similarities?
Yeah, we got that like.
All the x's are all the same.
So it's kind of what we're going to be exploring. Regardless of what form you use, you're going to get the same values, the same x-intercepts or zeros at the end of whichever one you decide. However, in your task today, which I'm getting ahead of myself, it's your idea or your exploration to decide which one is going to be most efficient for you to use. Some of these equations you can use, like this one for example, you could use any of these forms to solve, but it's the one that's most efficient for you. So I'm going to hand out the task really quickly. Okay. And while Mr. Kinney is passing that out, how do I get
I ain't got no so her admin. Exactly why. The same
Alright guys, are you okay with me erasing this?
No.
No, me too. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna leave that one out, but I'm just gonna erase it.
Pause. Why are y'all talking while Miss Essel is trying to teach you stuff? Okay. This is not acceptable. Y'all would not do that if well, you would start to do that and I would call your attention to the fact you can't do that. Pay Miss Essel the respect to focus when she's trying to teach. I know that we're trying to maybe copy down some notes and things. We're taking all of 10 seconds. Just wait a second and wait on her. She is teaching you important stuff.
Okay, so one thing that I am going to emphasize is why do you guys think that we solved? What was the purpose of that? Yeah. Okay. So Bree said so we can put it on the ground. What are we putting on the ground? I mean not Bree, sorry, Deja. Deja. What are we putting on the ground?
The points we got.
Yeah?
The x-intercept.
The x-intercept. So what Deja said was we're finding the x-intercepts when we solve. So we're going to add in our calculator. If you want to get your calculator out too, we're going to go to a graphing page.
2x squared plus 4x minus 6. Hey guys, you each need to have your calculator in hand. Miss Essel is teaching you a skill that I have not shown you yet, but you will want to make your job easier.
Okay, so go ahead and put that equation in a graphing page. Yes, Chelsea?
I'll let get that. You need to ask how I change it to the lines.
You don't have to change it to the lines, but what button do you press to do pretty much everything on the calculator? Under menu, what options do you see that might be able to change the view? View would change the view. Do you see the grid option under that?
It's the same equation.
And you need to go to the grid.
It was 2x squared minus, or plus 4x minus 6. Plus 4x minus 6.
I can't see the x. Where do we put the
She said put the first one.
Alright, we have that equation entered.
Oh, it's 6x?
No, ma'am.
2x squared plus 4x minus 6. It's the same equation y'all just did.
Okay, so listen very carefully. I'm going to walk you through a new skill in the calculator. If you go to menu right here, your menu is, and then you hit analyze graph, number 6, number 1 right there is zeros. Okay, and then it tells you to choose a lower bound, which means the beginning part of your bound. I don't know how to describe it. Beginning part of your bound. So to the left side of your graph. And if you scroll over your upper bound, you'll notice, and you click, you'll notice that your 0 pops up, which is -3, 0, which is exactly, I erased the word, but that was one of our zeros that we found.
How do you scroll it though?
Yeah, how do you do that?
Use the,
Use the touchpad.
yeah, the touchpad.
I don't have a lot of it.
Do what?
The graph part, I'm on the graph.
2x squared plus 4x.
That's okay.
I can't grab it.
You're just scrolling your, like a mouse.
It's not working.
Double click.
scroll it while you're pressing on it.
Yeah, so you have to
Plus
click
4x.
it, and then scroll it, and then click it again.
No. You haven't
Okay,
even
and
done the
then do the
operation
same
that she
thing,
told you
menu,
to. Menu.
analyze graph,
Analyze the graph.
0, find your second 0.
Menu, analyze graph, number 6.
Same thing, finding your second 0.
And what
Menu,
is it?
analyze graph.
Not just any old point. That's the x-intercept, isn't it?
Choose your
What are we
And
doing?
wasn't the one of the solutions earlier x equals -3?
I thought we pressed intersection.
Right? No, it never said intersections. What's
That's
another word
intersection.
for a root? Go to analyze. What's another word for a root? It's at the very top there.
Yeah.
A
Did we
0
all
is also
figure
a
that
root
out?
that's equal to 0. Because you want the lower bound, now you want the upper bound, so go to the right of the
You gotta
x-intercept.
make sure your first bound is to the left.
We can only do one at a time. And here. Now,
It can only find.
and now do the same thing to get the second
So
one.
EK brought
The
up a
second
good
one,
point.
do it the second.
Whenever you're finding your zeros, it can only find 1 0 at a time. So when you're scrolling over, just cross through one of the intersection points or one of the x-intercepts at a time. And then you can do it again. All right. Okay, so our learning objectives or goals of the day is to factor quadratic trinomials to determine the roots. Kind of what we did using not complete, so using vertex form, which is similar. Quadratic equation in vertex form to find zeros. You guys did this earlier, right?
This is the getting started.
Oh, yeah. Getting started. Just using different forms like vertex form here to solve. We're going to be exploring this more, but really just emphasizing, y'all talk about what ways to solve.
Well, when you have vertex form, what are we going to do to solve?
Inverse.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
yeah, that was it. That was it. Just as a reminder, if you have vertex form, at that point you would use inverses to solve, and properties of equality.
Yep, and this one kind of talked about factoring, exactly what we went over earlier, how you factor, stuff like that, so keep that in mind. And then this one was, we didn't really do complete square, but vertex form.
Well, this is just the reminder that one method, if you cannot factor, one method is to convert that quadratic to what form? To convert it to vertex form. You may not already have vertex form, you convert it to vertex form and use your inverses.
Then we talked about quadratic formula, which you guys will be using today as well. This is a work example of the quadratic formula. And they did not talk about this.
No, yeah, we did not talk about this problem at all yet.
Okay, if you guys will flip to, did we have a page this is?
Yes, I'm somewhere in here. 86.
Page 86.
M1-86.
And then I want you guys to talk with your groups like 1 minute to decide where the error is being made. 86.
Oh, okay, all right.
Vertex form. quadratic.
It don't even make sense.
Oh, that shit wrong.
Alright guys, we're ready to talk about this for like 30 more seconds. What do you guys find?
You look like you say.
Keep looking harder. Did y'all see? Okay guys, what do we notice about Meredith's
It's
error?
not equal to 0. You can't use a 0
What did you say?
Ish. We aren't using the zero product property in this specific equation, we're using quadratic equation. But I do like your thinking in that it's not equal to 0. In order for us to find our A, B, and C term, specifically our C term, we need to make sure that our right, or on this specific example, the right-hand side of the equation is equal to 0. So C in this case is not equal to -8. It would be equal to -11 because you have to subtract this 3 over. Does that make sense? Correct. Okay.
That you can see that.
Okay. So, once you guys just got your little handout, I want you guys to talk amongst your groups for about 60 seconds, looking at those 16 equations in front of you. What would be, like I said earlier, the most efficient method to use to be able to solve? You're not solving all 16. I want you to hear me very clearly. You're not solving all 16. However, we might need to be able to do, or might do, a little bit of computation in order to figure out what method would work best. You'll find that this activity is very fluid. There's not many right or wrong answers. So just talk within your group, be working together. As Mr. King would say, actively collaborate with your peers. Maybe look at the same example, but first, talk with your group of what strategy you want to approach. Be able to solve.
Y'all ready for because I want part of that.
Yeah.
You know, I said, oh no, what time was it?
Yeah, it was something. No, but the only reason I said right take off is like it's
No, it don't. You did one. You did one.
Alrighty guys, just pulling you back together for just a second. What methods did we talk about? How are we going to start sorting? I kind of want to hear from different ones. So you're going to see if the quadratic formula works for, I see what you're saying. Well, actually elaborate to make sure I see what you're saying. When you say quadratic formula, what are you saying?
That's what we're gonna try to. That's what we're gonna try to use.
Wait, what are you talking about?
You said we use quadratic
Oh, because it's our thing. But
It's not.
okay, I'm gonna
Okay.
say that.
Well, you can, the point of this activity is finding which one is most efficient for different methods.
Perfect.
What other ideas did we come up? I heard some over here.
I need
Not a,
what?
when like going through your different equations. How are you gonna? You're gonna see. I heard you guys talk about earlier
It's easier
to see if what. Okay, yeah. So this group is gonna see if the equation will factor first. I know personally, if I was going through this, I would just go A through. I think it goes to P. I'm not exactly sure what the last letter is. I would just start with A and see which one I thought and work through. Mr. Kane said he would find the easiest ones and then start grouping or start sorting those. But it's really up to you guys how you think would work best. So start cutting and then start sorting, and I'll be walking around.
The one thing to clarify, you have to work together. We do not want to see one person done with the entire thing and 2 or 3 people only have sorted 3. You need to work together to identify where you think the equations should go, which method you should use.
We have to solve that. No, that means work together and not just taking
It's so weird.
right? I'll get back to work. Your answers are gonna be right because they're
You heard me. Open sizzle like this. Open your sizzle. Yeah, that's what I'm real. I'm speaking to Lock in.
like J,
That's all you know. Did you say you saw who? Your boyfriend? You have your boyfriend? That's my nigga right now. I love Mr. Brad. Coach, who? Mr. Manning. I passed this class with an 8 or 9. Y'all wanna know who I love when I first saw him?
we know.
The first day she came to anyone else. Who was there? Who was there? I was like, who was there? Oh no, that was she really wasn't. Y'all can't cap. I'm in middle school.
Were you in the middle school?
We had a lot of drama. I ain't go to elementary school.
Yeah, I know she got one. Yes, she did.
Oh, I did. But I was cheating.
You got one. Yes, she did.
It was not a then you remember reading out to him.
I'd be asleep. What are you talking about?
I haven't seen him in so long. I seen him in the mall and he was like, what's up, Bree? What you doing? Like, bitch, you know I don't put my
What is he?
Oh, yeah. Yes, she would.
But you know, we followed that y'all said it was.
That's what you're telling me.
We just
You always said. I thought I really didn't get that much. And game got all day. You know, got all day to come.
This is literally a I mean, if you're original,
All my own time, like, she was always true. She like, stop lying. I don't know. It's not like I like it. It was just like, and I sat right beside her. So it's like, I was just her. It was one of them. I know they all. He went straight in. Shit, that's what it is. Because that's how she yeah, you're the problem. Is that why we're teaching y'all to ask if y'all want to play
No, we still got 40 minutes here, bro. Chelsea, right on these. Why are you putting so slow? Chelsea, you come like a grandma. Stack some papers on top of each other. Come on.
Can I see this real quick? Thanks. Y'all start talking about the ones you already cut.
Y'all find 8. Like, I'm trying to find
this number, right?
So this quadratic form have to be in standard form. These are factors.
Well, if you already have percentages, you can just go ahead and use inverse. If you already have factored form and it's 0, you can just use 0 product. So the whole thing is you can't solve it when it's zero. But that's why we now have these 3 strategies to handle it. Does that make sense?
Wait, no. So there's a 0 at the other
I will point this out, be careful, not that you're wrong, is that that is a 2. There's some decimal accidentally there. Oh, yeah, come with us next
You keep ignoring my question. I mean, you keep ignoring my question. I've been asking this question all day. I think so. See him down. And then I was like, so what's the question? So what is the negative? With all the negatives? Why you dressed like him?
I'll dress it down.
Okay.
Sorry, forget it. Alright, shoot back.
Okay, then how about this? How about that, Cam?
I put it on there.
Which one have you done?
So these what?
And you think about it.
It ain't gonna work with that.
What if it's
Multiply equal thing. The base of the fact like
it would be a fraction.
So basically, your time to do this
Okay, so just that same logic when going through those numbers. Okay, what about I? What's the first thing that we notice about I? What about? Ah, there it is. That's how you do it. So how do we get it? Yeah, subtract. But then you need that way.
Okay, so E.
Wait, what you saying?
Okay, F can be vertex or
So it's not, remember what I said earlier, it's very fluid, it's not specifically like this one.
Yeah, I see, yeah.
It's the one that's most efficient for you to do. So, let's look at, yeah, like this one, G. You'll have it in
Everybody on the screen.
So it would be most effective to solve
G can't be vertex.
right? So like that. But let's look at,
vertex. So yeah, inverse.
let's look at K. Let's just look at it. Tell me what K says.
Okay, says
That's okay. X squared.
X squared is
Okay, you had it in factoring, right?
And you don't think quadratic is
Let's think about factoring for that one now. Yeah, AC value. Think about factoring. So what two products, what are your multiples, or what are your factors of two?
no, that's in fact.
1 and 2. Can 1 and 2 add to be your B term in that one?
I'm gonna tell you this, it's easier than
That's why I said it's
easier.
So can that one be factored?
So I wouldn't base it,
But let's look at E.
well, I wouldn't just base it on the
Let's
A.
think about
A being
vertex
one,
and
negative
P.
one, always makes it on this one.
Vertex form. What's the first thing that we always find in vertex form?
J can be factored.
That I
We
wouldn't
divided by 2,
I will point this out, if you're trying to do vertex form,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
what is the first thing?
Okay.
okay. Has it
Okay, so when you find, what is it?
Okay,
What would in logical be negative B
okay,
by
let's,
2A?
Leah, talk about what you just did.
What's your B value? Negative 13. B is 13, the negative B is negative 13. Divided by what's your A value? No, what's your A value? Yes, you do. Yes,
I got
you
this
do.
with this little yellow.
It's 2. So it's 2 times 2. 4. So, negative 13 divided by 4.
So A times C would be 8 other factors of A that have
Oh, so it's factored in 8,
Is
not
that one factor?
right, it's factors of 8. Remember, it's factors of 8 times C. I will say there's no factors of 16 that have
32.
Yeah, I said
Factors of 32.
but it's factors of the 8, which is why you want to, here's the thing, y'all are looking at it, I would have written it down, 8 times
So we're having to think
C
about this.
equals 4 times 2 equals 8.
Therefore, I wouldn't go
And then you want
factor.
factors of 8.
That's kind of, that's the logic.
Right, so like, just take a second to write that down to help you realize that you can factor it out. But it's factors of 8 times C. So, not factoring it, so when are we going to do that?
Right.
y'all being quadratic.
Okay, so you're right for B for vertex. Track with those. You understand what to do? Those questions you need to. So So why G are you going to It's already in vertex form? What are we gonna do? Right, so like, we're gonna do vertex form within vertex. Oh, I already have vertex form. Rock and roll.
Are you on
There we go. I like it.
Oh, 15 and 3. 15.
The math is 7. That's what I'm
Right, but it gotta be positive, right?
This is gonna be.
Well, so it's gotta be a negative 18, so instead of 15 and 3, maybe
I'm going to emphasize this highly.
would that work?
Only works with A. If A is not equal to
Oh,
okay.
It really looks easy to be
If you put this
I know that.
Oh, yeah.
I would jump to this one can be back. So you're not wrong. But these
What is that?
that's okay. It's okay.
I don't know that. I can learn that equation by heart. It's negative b to big line over 2a. And I'm not listening to you. Shut up. I'm not listening to you. You ain't been here all day. You know the equation I get it mixed up with? That x equals negative b over 2a. That's like
well, stop saying negative b over 2a first.
Wait,
But that's
what's this? What is it? Negative b squared. So it's negative 45.
okay, guys, how are we feeling? Okay, top of the group, one of them I want to talk about.
I don't know what the plus or minus is.
What do we first notice about I? It doesn't even matter what we need to do. Okay, so once we subtract 4, side 2 squared times x minus 18. What do we want to do? Wait a minute. I see you.
Excuse me, Miss Amy, you're too fast. I'm going to 52.
Nope.
The rest of these two are right here. Mr. Kenny, can I go to the restroom? We have to check our chart.
Probably is it because like A?
Well, have you written out the reasoning?
Yeah, we write out reasons right there.
The whole thing is so that you can do this again. Well, because reasoning for why did you put these quadratics together? What did you see there that made you want to use the quadratic form? What made you put these together for to say we're going to use vertex form with inverses? What did you see here before we move down? Because we're going to push on your reasoning to help you determine maybe if we want to finish some of that.
So we can factor because all of them has factors.
Right here, for this equation. We subtract 15 to both sides.
You will on the test.
All these that's how I started with.
So in this case,
For a factor, when you put all the equations.
not negative 7, but negative 7, so the opposite. Negative 7, positive 7.
All equations can be factored by
Anyone in the right mind would want to put a fraction. Also, what y'all do is you're probably not going to factor 4 in your head. You're not going to factor.
was talking about something.
What number?
Still have to do, even with that, 8 times 6. Otherwise it won't work. Show me.
Yeah, Corey, sing a song.
Okay,
Alright guys, once you start to finish up, hey y'all listen up. Once you start, wow, that was incredible. Once you guys start to finish up, you have a reasoning section at the bottom. So start to fill in your reasoning of why you chose these group of equations for the quadratic formula or for vertex. So just start to write down your reasoning for that.
Kenny, what the? Shit got better, bro. You didn't put iron shit on there. What? I don't know. Why do we use red? Just keep red. That was big song. Chelsea, grab that. She said her shit itching. Wow.
What he probably did is he only gave you value versus factor. As soon as you get a 9, you have to be 8 times 7. That's why I do
These are good things. Again, there's no right answer. I'm not like, don't be afraid to say anything.
I don't have a friend. Is that where you're going?
There's no right answer.
Yes, she did. She's like,
It's not a question for me.
Miss Esther, what you said? When you said, I got a point. What you said?
So what, how would you
She's like, you make roads. I was that serious.
factor that into
See?
what, how would you, so you're saying that we would factor it, right? How would you do this?
Good. What was it?
That's not factor. To be in fact, it has to be X plus R 1 times.
Talk about Alex.
You can factor, this is a special case for you.
Alright guys, and you can go ahead and start gluing down if you have not started gluing. You should have some glue sticks in your boxes.
You can. Like, look at the equation. Like, it's okay, you X squared minus 49.
Maybe try to have two. There's one that's very clear.
And so, if you do one side, you have to do the other, I can't square the whole thing. Do I add one line?
Cause that's like not normal, but
That is a type of variable. So like you just use that's a type of
Alright guys, take about like 1 more minute to finalize your thoughts, and then we're going to talk about the reasoning up here.
yes, ma'am.
squares that we talked about. So you can say let's say it's already
Yeah, we don't is that like a
I will say on your test, what you told me is y'all are going to be required to do like least one in each way. So you do need to know how to solve each one. Whichever one you prefer, or if there's like freedom, then you can do whichever one you're most comfortable with. But you still do need to know how to do it. Right, so you might specify use factor for this specific equation, or use quadratic formula for this specific equation. So you need to know how to do all three, but as far as this activity, it's a lot more lenient of which one would you want to do, which one is most efficient for you to do. Okay, yeah.
Depends on the situation. I would go ahead and go to the reasoning soon,
Yeah.
so that they have time to conclude after they get to reasonings, because that way we just should have had them do that.
Alright guys, we're going to go over the reasoning, start factoring, so if you guys, yep, perfect. Okay, so what are some of the reasonings that you guys thought of for why we should factor some equations?
A times C method.
What about the AC method? Okay, so you're saying that if it has factors, if A times C has factors that add up to your B value, and you can factor it, then you're going to use the factoring equation? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to say if there are factors that multiply, sorry, that's what I was confused. That, or factors that add, oh, no, I was right, that add up to your B value. What else? What other reasonings? So if there's factors, so if the equation is factorable, anything else? I will say for me personally, and this is just me, if my A is not equal to 1 or -1, I'm usually not going to factor. Now that's me personally. Mr. Kinney would still factor, most likely.
Yeah, as long as A times C adds up to B, that's personally what I'm gonna do. There's, Ms. Essel was talking about this really well with the group earlier. There's a lot of freedom. And if you remember, I'm only gonna require that you use each method once. After that, you will be able to choose which methods you wanna use. I will go ahead and tell you, there will be a part of assessments where I ask you just what's the most efficient method for this equation. You won't have to solve it, but you'll have to justify why you would use that method. So be aware.
Okay, so those are my two reasonings for when I factor, and I think a lot of us thought about that when going through. Okay, so for the next one, we have vertex form. When are you guys thinking about using vertex form?
I don't know. When you can't use. So what was the AC method?
Okay, when factoring doesn't work, maybe you resort to vertex form. What else?
When our X
It ain't.
Value of the vertex.
Okay, so Lee's saying when your X value of vertex, which is what, by the way? Is what? What's an integer? I'm writing integer. Do we know what an integer is? Okay. So all your negative and your positive whole numbers. So if you want to make that note, you can. That's what an integer is. But yeah, I looked around at some of your groups. If your X value of your vertex is not a whole number, if it's a fraction, are you going to want to substitute in that fraction to find your Y value? I wouldn't. So I wouldn't use vertex form in that particular case. Other than that, if you want to use vertex form, you can. Also, my previous period noted that if it's already in vertex form, they're probably going to use vertex form. Okay, then the last one is quadratic formula. you guys wanting to do quadratic formula?
Value of birthday.
All the time.